If you had wandered into a certain general store in New Haven in the 1750s, you might have spotted an almanac. It was published by the owner, a shoemaker merchant who on the side studied math and astronomy. In among the forecasts was plain spoken New England civility. Public good, it said, is preferred before private interest. The owner was Roger Sherman, who went on to become Connecticut's representative to the Continental Congress. I'd say we could use a Roger Sherman right now. Life has been taken from 107,915 Americans already by today. Liberty in its pragmatic sense is all but denied, and the pursuit of happiness, well, Jefferson's expression of the American mind has stalled. Facing a uniquely 21st century crisis, will George Washington's last great experiment succeed, driven by his surest basis of public happiness, knowledge fostered by science? Science moves us forward in 3 steps. It creates knowledge to improve estimates of truth. These estimates engender new beliefs, which in turn inform choices in the pursuit of that happiness. Science focused on the heavens during Sherman's time, estimated truth about the positions and movements of the Earth, Moon, and other celestial bodies were published in many, many charts and tables. They rearranged beliefs over 150 years, encouraged imperialism, and fueled the dominant merchant economies. The science of life moves us forward in a similar way. Sherman himself was quarantined during a Connecticut smallpox outbreak, which killed 20% of those infected. Meanwhile, across the pond, Edward Jenner carefully reported his estimate of truth that vaccination with cowpox was safer than variolation with smallpox. He was close to dead right. 40 years later, English Parliament passed laws making cowpox vaccination compulsory for newborns and free of charge. People in Wuhan came down with mysterious pneumonia last year. 44 were logged with the WHO on January the 3rd. Newly named SARS coronavirus 2 was detected in 41 of them. Its genetic fingerprints were published just 8 days later. Within weeks, we knew patterns and mode of viral transmission, who it most frequently kills, and how they die. Life scientists were already pretty clear this meant a lot of trouble. Up to this afternoon, 6.6 million confirmed cases and 386,000 deaths have been reported worldwide, a lowball estimate of truth. A colossal scientific movement is underway to generate new knowledge about this virus and its effect. Warp speed has been requested from Washington, so I'll focus on just 3 questions. How do we see the future? What will reduce deaths among those who are infected? And when can we get most people protected? We see the future with models, the same way that Sherman saw the future of tides in New Haven. By February, models of earlier epidemics foretold that SARS-CoV-2 would become a pandemic. Most policymakers accepted that estimate right away and made some pretty hard choices. Models predicted social distancing would flatten the curves so that even inefficient hospital systems wouldn't be overwhelmed. Despite the overall veracity, the models were found imperfect, and that led to more unhappiness. But we have to remember that science only estimates truth. We don't know if infection produces strong, long-lasting immunity. We haven't counted how much asymptomatic infection is around, and at least in the free world, we won't ever know everything about social distancing. 7 renowned scientific groups with masses of experience are working on these models around the world. The renowned statistician from England, George Box, ran the stats department at the University of Wisconsin. He held spirited seminars at his home with Pabst Blue Ribbon on tap. Between swigs, Box reminded his students, all models are wrong, but some can be useful. A few drugs will reduce deaths among those infected. So far, 210 candidates to prevent or treat COVID-19 have been named in scientific journals. A whole lot more have been named on Facebook and Twitter. Our best science builds on clinical study methods used by James Lind. In 1747, while Sherman made shoes, Lind did the first controlled trial in the history of medicine. Sailors with scurvy were given cider, drops of sulfuric acid, vinegar, seawater, spices and barley water, or 2 oranges and a lemon. Results were clear-cut positive thanks to careful methods. But, Lind was lucky. The effects of vitamin C were so obvious that a few dozen miserable recruits proved the point. With COVID-19, we shouldn't rely on such luck. So with great relief, just last week, we welcomed the first large-ish controlled trials of COVID-19 treatment. One for remdesivir, the other for the famous hydroxychloroquine. Both were published in the venerable New England Journal of Medicine. For the last 5 months, Dr. John Bagel of Baltimore led a trial comparing remdesivir with placebo in adults who had COVID-19, including pneumonia, and they stopped the trial early because the results no longer supported the belief that it was okay to give placebo. How could they be so sure it worked? Well, no one can ever be sure in science, but the ratio of patients who recovered on remdesivir versus placebo was 1.32, an improvement, if you like, of 32%. If the trial was done over 100 times, the improvement would be anything from 12% to 55%, 95 out of 100 repeats. Those are pretty good bounds of confidence when looking for truth. The FDA approved remdesivir within a few days. Just yesterday, another report, this time for hydroxychloroquine, the 100-year-old drug that some people use recreationally. Could hydroxychloroquine protect people from getting an infection from one of their cohabitants? It didn't. At least not with any estimate that could support belief. How could they be sure this time if this trial were repeated 100 times? Well, the result would fall between an actual increase of infections by 2% on hydroxychloroquine to a decrease of up to 7%. That's a wide range of confidence when looking for truth, especially when the increase in side effects would be seen 99 out of 100 times. We probably don't need to give hydroxychloroquine in this situation anymore. But does this mean remdesivir is always good and hydroxychloroquine will always be bad? No. Fortunately, more good science is on the way. Even larger randomized trials are being done by the NIH, the University of Oxford, INSERM in France, and the WHO. When can we get most people protected? When 70% or more of the population is immune to SARS-CoV-2, it'll afford herd protection to those who are not yet immune. Where are we in that quest? Well, because we're still cranking up testing, we're again using models. These suggest infection rates that are 10 to 100 times the official numbers. But even this estimate leaves us at only 15% infection rate, far short of the 70% we need for herd protection. And why not? Get it over with. Let everyone get infected. Well, we know this is about 10 times more deadly than normal flu, more so in vulnerable people. The exceptional 1918 pandemic killed 30 million people in 24 weeks. So with no social distancing and no vaccine, I'm afraid to say the model still suggests we'd see about 1 million dead Americans in 6 months. It's a terrifying estimate of truth. And so a vaccine is essential. Failure is not an option. As of this week, 199 vaccines are in development. 35 will start clinical trials this year, and 15 already have. How fast? How fast can emerging estimates of truth shape wise choices? Can we continue with the last great experiment with civility shown by the founders? Well, the answers are fast and yes. And even we become a better society if we do this. Here's 5 ways to try. 1, despite unhappiness, we mustn't lose faith in models or modelers. While wrong, their improving estimates of truth are useful. 2, in God we trust, but everyone else must share, pedantically, their estimates of truth. Trusting gut, luck, or quackery, no matter how skilled the demagoguery, should be disallowed. 3, we must collaborate with others at risk. That means everyone on the planet, even enemies. For most leaders, science, knowledge, and truth are very valuable assets in a crisis. Number 4, we need to get ready for equitable distribution of vaccines. They're coming. And this is going to be the ultimate test of civility. And finally, we've got to quit calling earnest scientists' estimates of truth fake. They're not right, but if we do that, we won't prepare for the inevitable next time, which we must prepare for in 3 ways. Have great policies, people, and resources ready to respond on tap. Fix disparities in healthcare, which make pandemics worse, and reverse the 20-year decline in innovation for chronic diseases. You know, the ones that kill even more than pandemics, except year after year after year. SARS-CoV-2 and its terrible disease, COVID-19, is not the last pandemic. Well, we can be better with equitable estimates of truth, driving actions which increase happiness for all. Almanacs like Sherman's relate to the future. Public good is preferred before private interest.